Hey, I'm Amy Chang. I'm a nationally board certified health and wellness coach, and this is Healthy AF. In this podcast, I'll be bringing you all things health, from the newest health strategies to how to tackle those personal roadblocks that just will not let you move forward. So buckle in. We're going to be inspired and instructed, and dadgum, we're going to have a little fun on Healthy AF. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Healthy AF. I'm coming to you with a big, huge grin on my face today, just because it's the holiday season. Everything's kind of energized like the holidays are. They could be frantic, but they could just be energized. It feels so good. And I wanted to share with you today something I was thinking about in my yoga class this morning and on the drive home. You know, over the last decade, since I've become a coach, I became a coach because I was coached and it made such a difference in my life. And I wanted to do that for other people. And also I discovered actually I'm pretty good at it. It feels good for me in all the right ways, right? Not the ego way, but wow, this is something I can do well and I don't need to be stingy with it. So let's roll, that kind of way. So I became a coach by being coached by other people, and I was so appreciative of that and really could see my personal growth in taking responsibility for creating my life. So fast forward to now, I've done boatloads of personal work on me, and I am a coach. And I put out a lot of content about taking power in your life, taking responsibility for your life, pull your head out of your butt, stop being a victim. Martyr doesn't look good on anybody, right? I do a lot of content about that. Here's the ticket that I want to be straightforward about. I'm still in process. I've learned big chunks. I've changed so many patterns, and there's still work to be done. I say that because I wanted to preface this story. I wanted to tell one on myself and see if you could relate. So I am driving home this morning from yoga, and I had gotten all nice and zenned out. It was 94 degrees in there. It's my favorite yoga studio. It's Port City Power Yoga, where if I need to lay down while everybody else is down dogging, I just lay down, right? If there are some tears that need to come, if I need to breathe really loud or stay in a pose longer than everybody else, I can just, it's Amy's mat and Amy's class when I'm in that big class at Port City. And I love that. So I'm driving home from that feeling good. And I happened to, right before I pulled out, looked at some social media. That's always a bad thing, right? So I look at some social media and I saw a post from another person that was sort of cheerleadery and very coachy sounding, and take responsibility for your life and overcome your fears and I had this overwhelming moment of judgment. Straight up judgment. And I thought to myself, she doesn't do that. Woo. So I wanted to give you this tool that I had to use rather quickly this morning to get me out of my judgy pants, which really don't feel good. Judgy pants for me do not feel good. And the tool that I used this morning was Sometimes I Do. So I first learned that tool back. We were taking a course on how to take care of people. Actually, it was with an office that I was working with, and the presenter was saying, when you get irritated with clients, when you get frustrated, or someone's done something that you think is horrible, or you feel disrespected, just remember, sometimes I do that. And that phrase has been a really powerful phrase for me to take responsibility in the moment that I am not living up to my best self, to redirect my focus from over there judging someone else to back over here where I can actually grow, learn, and control what's going on. I can't control anything that's over there being done, and really it's none of my business. But I can use that moment of judgment to grow me. So how do I stay in growth, right? I know better than to think that if I have this moment of judgment and recognize it, that I'm going to be able to talk myself off the ledge. Oh, I am on judgment corner. How do I get off of there, right? How do I let it go? How do I make judgment corner happen less? How do I move myself forward into more compassion for myself and others? I have to do the work. And I guess that's what got me thinking today in the car is, I've done a lot of work. I've had a lot in the last almost 8 years now has been a lot of change and a lot of growth and a lot of pain and a lot of behavioral patterns shifting and changing. And I'll say reintroducing myself to myself and reinventing myself the way I want to be. And so it's easy sometimes to think, well, my God, I don't need to do any more. But I do. And there are some things that I do to keep myself honest, and they don't happen in isolation between my ears. That is a bad spot. If you're looking at your own behavioral shifts and you're doing it in the isolation of your frontal lobe, it's so easy to lie to yourself in there. I know it's easy for me to lie to myself in there. So here's what I do. I don't know what's going to work for you, but maybe this will give you something to think about. I make sure that my spiritual development is on point. I do that in lots of different ways. I did not say religious development. I said spiritual development. I happen to use my church as a place where I get spiritually enriched. And that works for me. You don't have to do it at a church. I use nature. I use nature to keep me connected to my spiritual side of my very highest self. I use 12-step programs. And in that is included calling other people who are on a spiritual path as well, spending time in conversation with those people, and being vulnerable enough to share like, hey, wow, I really was struggling to be my best self today. Or flat out, I was not my best self today. I had a conversation yesterday with a friend, and she was like, yeah, I did not do a good job. Okay, great. Having those kinds of vulnerable conversations keeps me honest, and having them with people who are willing to love you enough to say, you said that was okay, but I'm sensing that actually it's not. So where's your bullshit meter on that? Yeah, that's my spiritual work that I do. I keep myself growing and learning by having a slower lifestyle. And that is so hard. A slower lifestyle means taking a day or two a week to sit and journal. Sometimes I do that outside. And now I've never been a journaler. when we were 10 and you'd get diaries with like the little locks and everybody wanted to have one. I had them. They're all empty. I never wrote in them ever until about 2 years ago when life got really hard and I had to do something. So I just kept writing, and now I'm like 5 journals in. But it takes that time to sit. I mean, first of all, you have to have time to sit. How many of us take the time, particularly through the holidays, to sit? And then once you sit, it takes a minute. It takes a minute to settle and get still, which means when I sit on my couch, the dogs and the cats also need to be settled. My coffee cup needs to be nice and hot because I can't do coffee quick. It helps me slow down. That warm beverage in my hand helps me slow down. And then the other thing I have to do is leave my phone on Do Not Disturb. And I catch myself picking it up and going for the scroll. No, put that down. That's not this time. This time is still. So you got a calendar time to slow down and sit. Then you have to get your mind and your hand habit to also be still. And I'm committed to that way of living. And that's a challenge for me. That's not how I'm wired. And that's not what my familial culture tells me that I need to be doing, is like making time to be still. But that keeps me honest and self-reflective so that I can be my best self, so that I can realize I'm in judgment. So what other things do I do to keep myself growing? Well, for one thing, I do employ a coach. Now, I know I've talked about that before on this podcast, but yeah, I value coaching services. So I keep a coach almost year round. Right now, I talk to my coach weekly, and it makes a big difference. Sometimes I don't know what to say. Sometimes I think I'm fine. And when I show up and she says, "What do you want to talk about today? Where do you want to focus?" I'm like, I'm all good. Except there's this one, and then it's like an explosion. Sometimes it's more of a tether. Sometimes I came in this week and I'm like, I know exactly what I want to talk about. I did this, this, and this. And I realized that actually I wasn't being authentic when I did that, and it didn't feel good. And I want to talk about that and clean that up with myself. And so we had that kind of session. But putting my time, energy, resources on growing myself keeps me walking the walk of personal development and living my best life, not talking the talk. Because what triggered me when I saw that social media post and I knew that that person was doing some behaviors that didn't match that post was this big imposter syndrome trigger, this big not enough trigger in me. Because I get so judgy when I don't always follow how I create the content. Well, of course, I'm not going to follow all that all the time, every day. I'm not perfect. But it's times like those that I see a little judgment for other people, seeming to not, walk the walk, that I can check in with, what? Sometimes I don't walk the walk, and reevaluate. Am I walking the walk right now? Who do I need to talk to about, wow, I got really triggered, and I need to just make sure that I'm doing what I say is important to me. And not for anybody who might see a social media post and call bullcrap on Amy Chang said these lovely things on Facebook, but actually I saw her throw a temper tantrum in the grocery store. Not for them, but for me. Because I really am committed to being my best self. And that's what I've got for you guys today. When have you found yourself in judgment of another person? Do you notice it? Did you grow up with so much judgment in your environment that you don't notice your own? Is it standard for you? When you're in judgment, are you realizing that look over there at that other person actually serves you much more when you make that U-turn and take it back over here and focus on you? If you're there and you're really working on focusing on you, is it super painful to look at your own failings? Yeah. It took me a few years, handful of years, to get to a spot where for the most part I could look at my failings and still love me enough to not make it, significant. And, I'm just a horrible whatever. Insert role here. Health coach, business person, mother, spouse, friend, gym goer, nutrition, eating person, whatever. It took me a few years to start being able to focus on me and not just rip myself to shreds and be like, oh, wow, I was just judging. That's not what I'm committed to, right? It can be painful. And that's another reason why doing this in community is super helpful, because other people around you will tell you, no, man, you're just learning. They have compassion for you if they're walking that walk. There's probably plenty of people in your life who might not have that kind of compassion. Sometimes, and we may experience this during the holidays, when we grow up with everybody wearing their judgy pants. And it happens, right? When our families have generational pain, nobody wants to feel that. It's so much easier to judge everybody around us. And when we grow in that, where it's not safe to not be perfect, where it's not safe to rest, slow down, then judgy pants feel normal. And when we start trying to take one leg out of the judgy pants and everyone else around us is still in that pattern, it can sometimes not be a safe spot. So when we do it in a community of people who are also shedding off the stuff that blocks us from our best selves, those are the conversations and the people and the environments that pull us into our best. So I've been very intentional and I've been very blessed to find those communities where I can be my best self and I can mess up. Sometimes fiercely. And still come back to like, oh, okay, I'm growing and learning and okay. That's all I wanted to share this morning, I think, is, make that U-turn. Ask the question like, or give yourself, like, sometimes I do. So when is it that I'm doing whatever I'm judging that other person for doing? And how do I need to correct that? How do I need to apply compassion to me and to them? How can I be vulnerable and grow and love myself and love other people? And if I had any Christmas wish, that would be the Christmas wish, that we could be vulnerable with ourselves and other people and just spread love, man. So happy holidays. I don't know when this one's going to drop, but it must be close to Christmas. I hope you stay well, and I hope you have peace in your heart. And for Pete's sake, if any of this is resonating with you and you need help, just follow my link. Click in to have a discovery call. And we'll have a chat and see what your next step might need to be. I don't know what it is, but I know I can help you find some clarity around it. Give yourself some grace, and I will see you next time on another episode of Healthy AF. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Healthy AF podcast. I hope that it has helped you create a new possibility for your health and sets you into action to go get it. If you want more information or if you want to connect with me, visit my website at myhealthylife.coach. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that each new Healthy AF episode will be sent directly to you. Let's take you from where you are to where you want to go.